Hey, this is Pradeep from the Palais Royal Garden in Paris. It's been a cloudy day today, so I've been wanting to smell this newest collection from Serge Lutens. I tried checking out a couple of places, but no luck so far. Then I thought the best thing to do is to get to the mothership, their flagship boutique. It's just behind those trees, not sure if you can see it. I'm just about to walk into the boutique. I'm going to try those fragrances, come back and share my thoughts. Alright, see you soon. Hey, hello again. So I'm back home after testing the 5 fragrances from this new collection. It's called Royaume des Lumières. Very insightful experience discovering them at the boutique. It was a weekday morning, there was no one there, so I spent about 40 minutes talking to the SA about this collection, even the other fragrances and so forth. Here's a short clip.
Non. Tu vois qui c'est, l'animateur télé? Je pense. Ah, vous allez voir personne.
By the way, they have this old hinged glass door at the entrance of the boutique that just slowly creaks open as if you're in a haunted mansion. Still gives me the thrills every time I go there. Very much in line with the brand. The SA also showed me the latest fragrances that have been moved to the bell jars, some rare exceptional pieces and so forth. She was also kind enough to invite me to come back to discover these fragrances anytime I want. I have only visited the boutique a couple of times before because it sort of feels awkward at times to go there, spend a lot of time, smell a lot of things and come back without buying anything. Especially at a standalone boutique like this. I have kind of gotten used to it by now in this hobby. Plus having a good understanding with the sales associates also helps. Maybe letting them know you are aware of the brand, already own a couple of their creations and so forth. So I hope to visit them again. Who knows, maybe even do a rare in-boutique purchase. Nonetheless, this is a new collection launched in 2025 with 5 fragrances. Presumably all composed by Christopher Sheldrake. I did leave the boutique without buying a bottle, so I'm sharing only my initial impressions. As usual, I went about my day testing the blotters. 2 of the 5 fragrances I sprayed on each of my arms. So what is this collection about? It's sort of like a new exclusive collection, apart from their main line of fragrances and bell jars. But the caveat is, it has just 2 completely new additions. They already had a few collections like this, like the Gratte-Ciel and Section d'Or. Those have been discontinued. So 3 of the 5 fragrances have just changed bottles under the same name. They come only in 100 ml bottles for 380 euros a piece. The name of the collection itself seems to be a reference to 18th century Europe, so-called the Age of Enlightenment. The bottles have this beautiful print, what seems like a fusion of Art Deco and Royal Arab Middle Eastern design. So I guess this collection is sort of positioned for the Middle East. They come in their own boxes, and if you are feeling extra luxurious, you can also get the leather cases. The card with the name of the fragrance on the front, it's just a paper card with a very thin thread, which was a letdown. From the photographs, I was expecting it to be a metal plaque or something, especially for the price. But fine, I just think it can easily come off after some time. So let's go over the fragrances one by one, and in the end I will share my favorites. Let's start off with the 3 reissues and then go to the 2 new ones. I never owned any of them from the older collection. I've only smelled them in passing, so I won't be able to compare them or tell if there is reformulation and stuff like that. The prices of the older collection ranged from 400 to 500 euros a piece for 50 ml. So the essay was joking that now we actually get 100 ml for the same price. Once again, proving that prices don't mean anything in perfume. Anyway, first is Sidi Bel Abbès. This starts off very dry, arid, resinous, leathery, lots of brown desert shades here. It feels like it's pushing the Serge Lutens dry amber oriental signature even further, so it has that Middle Eastern signature going on. There is some dry, ashy smokiness, presumably from the tobacco. It's got this crackled leather, some resinous sweetness, maybe some dried fruits, rose, smell of shisha. There is this tension going on. It feels like there is something coarse, almost like sand, and something smooth at the same time. There is a grit to it, very evocative of a mood and setting. Animalic touch too. If you have spent time out in the desert, especially sitting on the sand on a carpet or something under the blazing sun, initially it's very warm, it's very uncomfortable, but after a while you start to enjoy it. That's sort of how this feels for me. Very interesting. Apparently the name is a reference to a city in Algeria, which is where many sacred saints were laid to rest. The memory of 2 lovers from there is what Serge wanted to capture here. The note from the brand says, "From a forgotten time and erased past, all that remains in our memory is the footprint in the sand of an anonymous love." The legend of Sidi Bel Abbès, for a long time a garrison town and headquarters of the Foreign Legion, still runs through the veins of Serge Lutens. This is his way of keeping its memory alive. Blazing sun, white sand, hot tobacco, and the stirrings of a romance. Second is Cracheuse de Flammes. This is a rose-based fragrance. It starts off sweet, sour, boozy. There is some dry, tree fruitiness coming through, almost like a dry red wine initially. Then the rose reveals itself, and immediately it was reminiscent of another Serge Lutens rose fragrance, Fille de Berlin. This also has that green, somewhat minty, metallic geranium facets coming in. Not as fresh, of course it has a richer tone overall, more robust and opulent. There is this flaming, something burning kind of sensation coming through in the background. And by that I don't mean smoky, it is more so fierce and fiery, very nicely done. I think I would consider this over Fille de Berlin, but I'm not sure the price cap is justified. So there could be some redundancy with this one, but very well done nonetheless. Maybe Dior could learn a thing or two about creating rose fragrances from this, so they don't put out forgettable creations like Rose Star. Quickly the note from the brand. Seduction is a weapon, the flame's a language. I breathe the fire, which ignites her passion. And in this war of fire, all that remains of the woman, the rose in this instance, is a burning passion, a smoldering ode to the personality of a woman who dares to do anything. Wherever she is, there is trouble. Out from a cloth of petals, intertwined with the sharpest thorns, fiery, uncompromising, and unforgettable. I mean, that's a perfect blurb indeed. Third is Tarab. This is the obligatory rose oud combo. It supposedly refers to being in a state of trance in Arabic. It is dark, there is this velvety, rich Turkish rose in there, smoky, leathery oud. It has this smoked red fruitiness coming in, eventually settles on this familiar woody, somber base. Apparently there is cypriol in here, which has been done over and over again. Just a couple of weeks ago, I talked about Shadid from Tower Perfumes. This would fit in that bracket, though I think this is better put together overall. It's just that it feels like it's too late to the party. A lot of people probably have something that covers this category already. If not, this would be something worth considering. That is, if you're looking for a reference rose oud. Personally, it is a genre I'm fatigued by. Now and then, something surprises me, like Ruad, But yes, definitely don't need another rose wood. The brand says, to resurrect the transcendence and sacredness of ecstasy, Serge Lutens leads the senses in a mesmerizing dance of opulent Turkish rose blended with precious wood, embellished with cedar wood and candied fruit. Teeming with splendor, Serge Lutens chose this name Tarab in yet another homage to the perfumes of Arabia. Yeah, the blurb is also straightforward and typical, just like the perfume. Alright, so that's the reissues done. I believe they are originally from 2015, so a decade old. Now let's get to the two new releases. First is Zurafa. This is an iris leather combo, which I was really interested to smell. It starts off with a familiar iris note, reminiscent of iris silver mist, chalky, spicy, vegetal, maybe not as cold, grey or metallic. The suede leather seems to be bringing in this sort of tactile, warm character. Imagine the same ghost from that misty landscape appearing in a desert oasis, maybe a tent with some white screens. That's how this is. It also has that Middle Eastern woody dark signature of this collection. Some dried fruits and spices in there, a bit anisic, clovey. It also reminded me of Iris Nazarena from Iris to Venestas, like an amped up, drier version of that scent. I quite like this, but once again, there is the redundancy and price aspect to consider. Both of those other fragrances I mentioned are like 40 to 50% cheaper than this. I already own those two, enjoy them a lot, particularly Iris Silver Mist. But if that does not matter to you, and you like those fragrances, this is worth a sniff. What does the brand say about this one? In the most advanced medieval Arab civilizations lived the Zurafa, a group that represented the height of sophistication, brilliant both in their humanist thinking and in the sumptuous fabrics they wore. They left behind them the nostalgia of a perfume, as fine as leather, the pinnacle of refinement. I have to look up more about this group, sounds fascinating. The last one is another new release. This is Bois Roi d'Agaloche. So I sprayed this on my skin, and as I went about my day, this was the one I kept coming back to. This is the one that really felt like it fit the exclusive collection. It is this unapologetic, animalic take on wood. I don't think they used real wood here. Maybe incense, sandalwood, labdanum, warm spices. But it has a lot of facets I would expect from a Western wood. It has the petroleum, medicinal facets, the sour, cheesy, musky, carnal facets, of course with the golden, woody, ambery background. All that is here. It might as well be the most overtly challenging creation Serge Lutens has done, probably ever. And yes, I find this to be bolder than the infamous Musk Kublai Khan. But at the dry down, it does soften and becomes this contemplative scent in the quintessential Serge Lutens fashion. It feels rich, complex, luxurious, fit for the king in the name. I'm very impressed with how they were able to bring in facets that are reminiscent of real wood. It is also not immediately reminding me of other fragrances. It is its very own Lutenesian take on agar wood. The note from the brand says, the name is an allusion to both woods and the prime woody substance of the East, agar wood, the king of woods. The fragrance is a study on this luxurious, majestic raw material and sure to find an audience among those loving the Middle Eastern reference. Agaloche comes from the botanical term Achilleria agalocha, thus explaining the name Bois Roi d'Agaloche. So that's the last fragrance. Overall, I quite enjoy testing this line. I appreciated revisiting the ones which I never owned, and of course the two new additions. As for the Middle Eastern orientation of the fragrances, I think they have done a honorable job here. There are not a lot of Western houses that do a good interpretation of Eastern fragrances. Of the ones I tested, my clear favorite is Bois Roi d'Agaloche. That is the one I intend to test again, maybe get a sample. Second, maybe Sidi Bel Abbès. Pricing is going to be the biggest hindrance. 380 euros is a lot of money. If it was 50 ml for 175, then maybe I would consider purchasing a couple. I wish some of these were in the main line, but it's the brand's decision to make them exclusive. What can we do? It may sound sinister, but I wonder whether some of these will hit discounters at some point. I will try to keep an eye on that case. Of course, it also remains to be seen if they will add more fragrances to this collection in the future. Maybe the distribution will be an issue as well for those who do not have access to these fragrances. But if you do, definitely worth checking out. The brand itself has kind of gone under these days. It was like the top most discussed mainstream niche brand when I started in this hobby. At least they still have a strong religious following, so that's good. If anything, I'm happy to send some more people their way. They definitely deserve it. With all that being said, that's been my impressions of the newest collection from Serge Lutens. And as always, thanks for watching, take care, and ciao.